that the warehouse? Is that the warehouse? All right, picked up both batteries from Jakiper, a 48 volt and a 24 volt. Now let's go take them and test them. This right here is a 2.5 kilowatt hour battery, 24 volt battery by Jakiper. All right, time to talk about batteries. Look at what just came in. It's a big JK24V 100. I don't even know what's inside. Let's open the box and find out. Let's check voltage. 25.7 volts. So it needs to be charged. All right, so let's talk about this battery. It's 24 volts. It's 100 amp hours, right? So that equals 2.560 watt hours or 2.5 kilowatt hours. It's got a charge current max of 50 amps and a discharge current max of 100 amps. So it's a 1C battery, right? 1C battery rated, right? 100 amp hours, and you can get 100 amps max. Well, that's max though. I don't know if that's continuous. We'll have to see that. And this is done by a company that I don't know much about. It's jakiperbattery.com. Now, interestingly, they asked me if I wanted to review one of the batteries. I said yes, and they said, oh yeah, you can pick it up at our warehouse. And when I look up their warehouse, it's down the street from me. So I found that very interesting. So I drove out there, picked it up, picked a couple of these ones. There was the 24 volt and a 48 volt. And I think the 48 volt might be a rack mountable unit, but this one, the 24, is not. As you can see, comes in this box that is very nice. I like this box. It's a stainless steel box that I've never seen anything. I wish we had some of these boxes for DIY builds. If you have are you familiar with my DIY builds, you might know and remember that I've done builds with the plastic cases that you can buy from China, sort of like this. But I've never done too many of them because these cases are really expensive. You're looking at like $200 right here, or $250 just for a box. So, you know, we're always trying to make our DIY projects kind of like on the cheap, right? Trying to save money. And so when you have to pay so much for the box like this, then I'd say, no, let's figure some other way, right? So that's why I never really pushed these products too much. They're just too expensive. But this right here is selling. Let's look at the website and see what this one is selling, and then we can figure out the price per kilowatt. All right, so here is Jakiper.com, and of course they have 24 volt systems or 48 volt systems. If you click on the 24 volt system, I see, where's it take you? Oh, there we go, and it takes you to that battery that we have. Here we go, let's click on it. In stock, ready to ship from California warehouse. 16 stock. So I wonder if that's the same warehouse that I picked this up from. But if it is, they're down the street from me. So it's a lithium iron phosphate, 25.6 volt. I guess that's the nominal. Stable BMS rechargeable lithium iron phosphate battery. So the price is $1,029, right? $1,029 for this battery. And so if you do the math here, $1,029. I don't know what the shipping is, and the shipping is going to be different for everyone, so I'm not going to use it to calculate here the price. But if you divide that by 2.5, right? 2.56 kilowatt. So you're looking at $400 a kilowatt hour. That's what this battery, it's a bit on the expensive side, but look at this battery though. This is really well made. I like this case. Like I said, this case, it's at least a $300 case if you were to buy it on AliExpress, right? And so because of that, you know, this, I guess it makes sense for the price. You know, I wouldn't say that it's overpriced. I'd say that it's priced correctly. It's a it's a turnkey battery, right? And it's very nicely made. It ships from California, so you don't have to wait a long time to receive it because it'll just ship from California. I mean, those guys just told me to go pick it up, and I just drove out there and was able to pick it up. So you're even in California, you can just pick it up. Now let's look at the descriptions here. 4,000 cycles at 80% depth of charge, right? So yeah, what is that? 10 years or something if you were to cycle it every day. But if you build your system so that it doesn't cycle daily, it cycles every 2 days or something like that, then you're looking at a battery that's gonna last forever. Stainless steel case, great 24-volt storage system, connecting serial up to 48-volt system. So you can have 2 of these and put them in series, and then you know, run a 48-volt system. Unlimited parallel, obviously, because, you know, parallel, you can, yeah, you just keep going and it's no problem. Automatic system cell balancing, unique big MOSFET BMS, temperature monitoring, high and low cutoff, exceptional voltage stability, maintenance free, no hydrogen generation or gassing. This is a thing that happens with the lead acid batteries, right? So this is a thing that you have to make sure and take into account when you're using lead acid battery systems, which I guess not a lot of people are doing these days. I don't know, maybe they are, I don't know. I seem to be in this bubble. I only deal with lithium batteries, so for me that doesn't exist, but I'm sure it exists out there. 70% less than 70% of the weight of similarly sized SLA batteries. So yeah, and that is true because lead acid batteries are very, very heavy. So let's take this battery apart and see how it's built on the inside, right? And maybe there'll be either signs of why this battery is priced correctly, or maybe we will see signs of maybe that will prove that maybe this is overpriced. You know, I don't think that's going to be the case, but let's look it up. Let's open it up and see. Okay, when you do this, you have to make sure and you're careful because these are live. So if you touch these, then it is gonna be a big problem. Okay, so let me see here. Where do we begin? This is, I mean, all I have to say is it's beautiful. I mean, it's a custom made box just for these cells here. And it's just, yeah, it's done in an elegant way, right? So it's got all these brackets that are pressed and braked. So they're folded out of the same material, the stainless steel. And then it's just spot welded onto the sides. So as a result of that, these cells fit in there perfectly. There's not a lot of wiggle room. They have this sort of foam in there in between each of the cells. It's an 8S. They're using regular bus bars that are spaced a little bit, you know, wide so that they allow for the cells to not be touching each other, which is it's a good idea because, you know, a lot of these cells are electrified on the case, and so if they rub against each other and if the isolator wears out and chafes, then you could have a short circuit. But this way you won't, right? And it seems like they have foam, this sort of type of foam in there, in between them, which is good. And then they have obviously this piece on the top here that also keeps the cells from falling off or bouncing around, right? So not moving. Now, the cables is using 2 cables here. And they're rated, they're 7 American wire gauge, 200C. So these are high quality 7 gauge, which is weird, 7 American wire gauge, right? They're silicon wires, which means that they're soft and they can withstand 200 degrees C, so they won't melt easily. And they're using 2 per terminal, right? And this is sufficient because this BMS is only rated for 100 amps. That's what the battery is rated at, 1C, right? So The BMS is screwed on the top lid, and it's got this big heat sink in here that is touching all the MOSFETs. So it doesn't use the actual case of the battery to cool it, but it does have a large, I don't know, 3/16 thick aluminum plate in here to dissipate any of the heat that is created when you're loading this with 100 amps. The wires are connected to the BMS via these screw terminals, which I like. And they're not just solder in there. None of this looks to be solder. Everything seems to be crimped, which is a good idea when you're running something that's gonna be pushing a high amperage. Because solder has a high resistance, right? And so stuff that gets around 100 amps, then they do it with crimps and soldered or terminals, right? Now the terminals are soldered into the thing, and the MOSFETs are soldered into the thing, so you can't get away with having solder in there and stuff. But the less you do, especially on these areas where everything terminates or everything has to bottleneck through these two cables, then the better it's going to be. So there you go. It's beautiful. I've never seen a battery that is as well made as these ones right here. And the fact that they are here in California, so you can buy one and they'll ship from here, is great. Now, the only thing to do is to run a capacity test on this. And and also the other thing is this technology is like some of the latest, like lithium iron phosphate is getting so good these days. I've done this before, and I've talked about the fact that a few years ago, 5 years ago, the best lithium iron phosphate, this is a 100 amp hour cell, right? And the first lithium iron phosphate cells that I used, they were slightly bigger than this, but they were only 90 amp hours, right? So this is an improvement of the first lithium iron phosphate that I started using about 8 years ago, right? 5 years ago, this is where that technology was at. Well, look at it now. This box here has 8 of those 100 amp hour cells, right? And I mean, look, they're about half the height and I don't know, 3/4 of the thickness. They're a little bit wider, I guess, right? Yeah, a little bit wider. But if you do the volumetric and gravimetric measures, right, capacity or numbers on these cells, the lithium iron phosphate, the new version of the lithium iron phosphate, they're really getting close to those of lithium iron phosphate, to lithium cobalt oxide chemistries, the NMCs, and all the other chemistries that are lithium cobalt oxide, right? And so this is really good. It's very compact, very light battery, and it's very well made. So let's check capacity on it now. All right, let's put it to charge. I'm gonna use my variable power supply here. At 29.2 would be 3.65 per cell, which is the maximum. 29.2, is that what I said? So you just put in 29.2, then you lower the amperage, the current down. I usually like to go all the way down to 0, and then I plug it in, and that way you don't get a big spark in there. There we go. So that battery right now, it's sitting at 25.6, so now we turn the current. There we go. How much is it? This little power supply can do 20 amps. I usually like to put it somewhere around 19. Just give it a little bit of headroom. So we'll let it charge there, and then after that, we'll discharge it and measure the capacity. All right, so here we go. Time to do the capacity test. I have this battery, 24 volts, connected via these shunt here. This is just a current meter, right? Or battery meter. It will keep track of the battery. It's right now at 100 amp hours, 100% state of charge. Let's see. It has a light, I think. Oh, there we go. Yeah, It's got this blue light. And then my load is going to be this Ames 3000 watt inverter, 24 volt inverter. And then that's just connected to the thing here. So we're just gonna quickly see if we can load it with 100 amps, right? This is the max that it will do. And then we'll just check capacity. Okay, so here we go, 90 amps. Let's adjust it so it gets 100 amps. 94, 95. All right, 100 amps, 2.4. There we go, 2.4 kilowatts, 100 amps. Let's see how the battery does here. All right, so it stopped discharging. And I think the reason it's at 56%, so it's only half of the battery there. And I'm thinking that it's because it overheated. Now I'm pushing this battery really, really hard, right? I'm pushing it at 100 amps. And this is the max that this could do. And I didn't pay attention here on the meter, but the current might have been climbing. And so maybe what it was doing, it was pulling more than 100 amps, and maybe that's the reason why the BMS stopped. So the BMS right now, it's off still. If I disconnect the, let's see here, our power supply, yeah, it turns off, right? So we have to wait until it comes back again. Yeah, it's not coming back on. So this is I don't know if I charge it. Could I charge it? Let's see. I mean, the voltage goes all the way up to like 29, right? So the voltage is almost all, but it just doesn't take any current right now, which means that the BMS is being disabled. So that's a good thing that the BMS has stepped in and said no more, right? The temperature's too much, and that's because we're pulling a lot of current. So let's see how long it takes for this battery to cool off and for the BMS to once again start. Now, this is a sealed battery. It doesn't have a fan. If it had a fan in there, then it would be able to turn on and, and then, cool the BMS quickly, but it doesn't seem to be the case at this point. So we'll just have to wait. All right, so it took about 15 minutes for this to cool off and for the BMS to kick back on again. So we're gonna start our test again. This time we're gonna lower the amount of power. About one. Okay, so where are we there? Okay, so that's 50 amps. All right, 50 amps. Let's see how well it does there at 50 amps. All right, here we go. The battery just gave up and it turned off. Yeah, we definitely got 100% of the thing, but we did have to lower the rate at which I was taking the power because it did quit. You know, it's understandable, I guess, right? The higher the rate you do, the more losses that you will see on these batteries. So, but we got 100% of the capacity, so that is good news. All right, so what is this battery good for? Well, 24 volts in this size, in this form factor, I'd say it's great for RVs, right? Because RVs have 24 volt systems and they don't require high amperage output because it doesn't, you know, it's not to start the RV, but it's just to run the house, lights and appliances and stuff. So this is perfect for that, right? Maybe some golf carts that are use, you know, 24 volts, that would be another application. And then anything else that uses 24 volts, right? You can get 2 of these and then put them in series, and then you can run, and then 48 volts. Then you can do anything. You can do your storage at home, right? You can put these in your garage and then connect them to an inverter and then run them that way, and then you can parallel a bunch of them so you can add capacity, right? So there's a lot of possibilities for these, right? Now, I know what you're saying. Most of my audience, most of you guys watching my channel are DIY, and now I'm reviewing a $1,000 battery, and I know what you guys are thinking. What the hell? Like, isn't this overpriced? Isn't this way too expensive? And no, when you look at this, it's not. It's a premium set of cells, first of all, right? These are the latest technology, lithium iron phosphate. They're selling somewhere around $300 a kilowatt hour. This comes out to $100 a kilowatt hour. So that means that you're getting charged $100 per kilowatt hour on everything else, right? So about $200 for the box, which I think it's worth it. I mean, this is a premium box made out of stainless steel. Look, the terminals alone, these terminals are the exact ones that are in here. I bought these to use them for my own build, and these are $30 in China, right? So it's like, these are high quality, you know, the handles, the cells, the foam that goes inside, the BMS. The BMS alone is probably like another almost $100, $150. So no, when you add up all the componentry, and you put it together, you might break even. You might spend about $1,000, and then you still have to build it, right? So for those of you guys who are building and you want to get cheaper batteries, I have other videos, I have other projects where I can show you how to make this battery for half the price, right? But lithium iron phosphate in this form factor, like this, no, this is not overpriced. This is dead on, I'd say. This is worth $1,000 right here because it's a beautiful battery. It's very well made, and is turnkey. You get it, you open the box, you connect it to your thing, and you're ready to go. So that is worth a lot for a lot of you guys. For a lot of people like me and a lot of you guys that are watching this, right? Well, we like tinkering. We like building stuff. And so we don't always do it for the money. We sometimes do it just for the fun of learning and all this other stuff. So like if you want to learn, if you want to save some money, yeah, this is probably not the product for you. But for the rest of us that don't have time or whatever, this is going to be a product that is going to be very useful for you. All right, link to this product where the warehouse is in California, so you won't have to wait for long shipping times across the seas, around halfway around the world, is going to be in the description of this video. If you buy something there, I make affiliate commission, so you'll be helping the channel and helping me keep doing you know, battery projects like this. All right, thank you for all your support. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. All right, another show. Let's get out of here.
Is this Happy Camper? We have a training video of how to...
All right, next review. Next on the table is going to be the Jakiper 48 volt 100 amp hour battery. It's just a rack mount battery. So let's see what it looks like.